on YouTube.
Baylor is rattled in the second half in their game in Lubbock against Texas Tech, and Tech gets the sweep. And I was stunned that it's been almost, 18 years since they had done that, but that's true. And that's back when Bob Knight was still coaching early on in Scott Drew's career at Baylor. We're now joined by Ashley Hodge, college basketball as passionate a fan as you'll ever know, also partner for Sikkim365.com, and does a lot, including post-game podcast live shows after Baylor men's basketball. Ashley, was LJ Cryer playing about the only thing positive from last night after everything's said and done?
That was definitely one of the positives. It was good to see him make a couple three-pointers. I know they had him on a minutes restriction. In fact, we had his dad on the post-game podcast last night, so we got some good insight from him. But yeah, it was one of the very few positives. They got off to a great lead. They played very well in the first half. They looked like they were ready to take the fight to Texas Tech, and then just had a very unmemorable second half and did a lot of things wrong, including really got crushed on the glass. And they need to correct that quickly because a lot of people don't know this, but TCU is the number one offensive rebounding team in the country. They're a really good offensive and defensive rebounding team. So if they don't bring a better effort on the glass, it could be a tough night in Waco or a tough day in Waco Saturday.
Ashley, James Akinjo gets a lot of grief for the turnovers, but without him, this Baylor offense doesn't work the same way. It's just completely different. Is that just something that fans are going to have to learn to deal with him?
Yeah, I think he's he does turn the ball over quite a bit. He over dribbles at times, but he is also, there's so much pressure on him to create for Baylor to get good offense. I think you saw what he does really well in the first half. You certainly saw it against Texas last Saturday. I mean, he is terrific when he's playing well. And I think he's going to get a lot better down the stretch as he has opportunities to practice with Flagler and Cryer. You know, basketball is a rhythm and chemistry game, and those three have just missed so much time in the last 30 days, in and out of practices, in and out of games. And if they have a couple weeks here where they can practice together and play together in games, I think you'll see a totally different version of James Akinjo in the postseason. And, Baylor fans will love what they see because he's certainly capable of taking over games and playing at a All-American level.
Ashley, we knew Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua was going to be a big loss, and you mentioned the boards last night. Certainly he would have factored in there, but what was most noticeable to you without seeing him or seeing his absence as we start this journey where he's not going to be a part of the mix here?
The rebounding for sure, but I also think he just brought a incredible toughness to the team. And, there are times when Baylor makes that run that Texas Tech made in the second half and just really puts opponents away. And a lot of times it's the catalyst is an alley-oop to John or, a short roll to John where he hits a little, short jumper or gets to the free throw line. So they're going to miss him, but they have plenty of pieces that they can fill in. Kendall Brown's got to elevate his level of play. Jeremy's got to play well. Jeremy did really well on the glass last night. Flo Thamba, those guys need to hit free throws, and of course Matt Meyer has to be more consistent. So if you get all those four playing better, then I think they can make up for Jonathan's loss. But it is a big loss, and certainly does affect them at least in the short term until they can adjust.
Scott said after the game they hadn't had much time to kind of react to it, and about any time somebody like LJ's back, Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua was no longer a part of it. It seemed like Akinjo was back, and then it was Flagler, and Sohan's back, and then it was Cryer. It's just one of those deals, but that's it. That's who you are. It would be great to have everybody healthy, but you can't have last year where nothing really went wrong other than the battle against COVID, which almost derailed them, but they fought through that. So how high of a ceiling right now, based on where they are, do you have for this particular team with 4 or 5 or so games left in the conference schedule?
Yeah, I think that Baylor fans, because they watch every game and they tend to live and die with every outcome, they're probably too pessimistic after last night on Baylor's chances to make a Final Four. But you look at KenPom, and KenPom has Baylor number 4 still in their metrics. And I think they're still a legitimate Final Four contender. They have a lower margin of error now than they did before. But, another thing, you mentioned the injuries. A lot of people don't know this, but James Akinjo sprained his ankle before the game and was a game-time decision last night and was playing on a ankle sprain. So they've been snake bit, and, if they can just get some luck from the injury bug and be able to practice together for a couple weeks and play through some of these mistakes, they should beat TCU and Iowa State at home. And then you hope that you can beat Kansas on your home court. And then if they can split the other road games or even win both of those, at Texas, at OSU, they're in really good shape. If they can go into the tournament as a 2 seed or a 1 seed and get that Fort Worth, San Antonio route to New Orleans, where you have friendly fans behind you, then I think they set it pretty well to at least have a shot to make the Final Four and get some rhythm going.
Actually, people also forget that once they get their draw, that more than likely they're not going to have to play 3 Big 12 teams in a row,
right?
Like they do every week.
These are the dog days of February. Every team, that's the thing. You look around the country, and besides Gonzaga, who has a much easier conference, all the teams out there are struggling in February. I mean, Kentucky gets crushed by Tennessee on the road. Purdue's dropping games. UCLA's dropping games. Arizona's losing at UCLA decisively. So it's not like there's these monster juggernaut teams that are just blowing through the competition in good conferences. When you're in a good conference like this, you're going to take your share of losses and even some that you're like, wow, that was we got blown out, or we really got rolled tonight. So the Big 12 is the best conference in the country. And there are no give-me-easy games. And so I think there's some mental fatigue that happens. But everybody's refreshed in March and new life as you play new opponents. And Baylor's been very good against opponents outside their conference. Only lost the game to Alabama, and they had some injury issues there. So I think they're in pretty good shape to do some good things in March.
If they play like they did in the first half and they can bottle that up and play that for 3/4 of a game or for back-to-back halves, and they had the almost nearly flawless first half, and even though it could have been even a higher lead or could have been within 2 or 3, the crowd was not jacked up in the game. They kind of not silenced them, but they kind of had them at least somewhat contained because of the style of the play. Flo Thamba, he's a phenomenal part of what they've done recently, and obviously he had the monster game against Gonzaga, and at times this year he's been really good. And he had 9, I think, rebounds last night. But, the free throws he missed from free throws, you got to make those. He's, in my opinion, as he's 6'9", 6'10", whatever he is, he has pretty big upper body now. Are there times, Ashley, when you wish he would go up stronger under the rim and at least get fouled and maybe get an and-one?
Yeah, he doesn't have that explosive vertical leap that we've seen from a guy like a Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua. And, I think that, it's easy for me to say because I know how physical games can be down low.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think he shot 8 free throws last night, and he was only 3 for 8. So, if he can get to the line 8 times a game, you'll take that all day long. And I think he ended up with 7 offensive rebounds. So no complaints at all about how he played. He was a warrior in there, and they're going to need that. I mean, of course, he's coming off the game of his life against Texas. He played terrific in that game. But, you would love to see him finish with dunks, and he's done a little bit of that. And but you certainly want to see him finishing strong through contact, and I think as we get to the stretch run, you'll see more of that.
I saw a thread, Davion Mitchell / James Akinjo, and you kind of broke some things down about whether and what Akinjo could be if he comes back next year. And then the first question out of the bat, it didn't surprise me because this is something I saw last night on my timeline. Do you have the average number of dribbles statistic to compare? And I sometimes think that there are other players on the team who are not playing as well, but because of Akinjo's playing type personality, I think he's the one, because he's the point guard, that takes most of the bullets. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure. And, he has a lot of Curtis Gerald in him, for those who remember how good Curtis was. But Curtis was prone to over-dribbling as well. But I think that, to the point of that post that I put up, Davion Mitchell was outstanding on defense his first year for Baylor. And I would say an above average offensive player, but not a great offensive player by any stretch. And he took a huge leap the second year in the system as he got more comfortable. And now, of course, a big reason for his success was he had two guys that he just had great chemistry with, or, three if you include Vital, Butler, and Teague. But, if you're going to dream for Baylor, if you can get Cryer and Flagler and Akinjo to return next year, I think, the chemistry those guys will have together after a year of playing together will be great. And, it's going to be hard to match the backcourt that Baylor won that national championship with. But Akinjo's got that same dog, that same work ethic that Davion has. And I would not be shocked at all if he took a huge leap as far as offensive productivity and efficiency, just like Davion did his second year in Baylor's system.
Yeah, let's remember that Davion Mitchell, during COVID, when they said, hey, you can't see anybody, you just have to lock yourself away from everyone, he was like, okay, good idea. I'll be in the gym. Yeah. Come and get me when this is over.
I'm in the gym, and you can't be here because I'm in here, and we can't be close. Here's I want to read this, if you don't mind, Ashley. And again, thanks for your time today. This is from Lone Bear on part of the thread that I mentioned with you, Davion Mitchell, and then also James Akinju. Our biggest problems as fans this year, and we discussed this earlier, is that we are comparing this team and players to last year's team and their players. We literally had one of the best teams in college basketball history last year, which means we had a collection of generational stars pieces as players. My point is that Akinju was awesome, but comparing him to Mitchell is just not fair at this point, and maybe never will be. Appreciate the discussion. And what he was doing is, you're looking at down the road, but yeah, Paul, you've said it, Craig said it, both said it today on the show. It's a standard now. There's a little bit of that. I used the word entitlement, which probably was a little bit too harsh. It's just fans have gotten used to winning at Baylor in a lot of things, and they're 21-5, Ashley. It's not like they're 17-10.
Right. Yeah. This is still one of the best teams in the country. And Jerome Tank told me this before the season started when I was asking him, how good he thought this team could be. And this was, of course, before the injuries to Langston Love and Jonathan Chalmers-Chatchua, and all the nagging injuries that we've had to deal with. But he said, I think this team is potentially Final Four good. But he says, you have to remember, we were blowing out Final Four caliber teams last year. I mean, beating them by 10, 12, 14 points, 16 points. He says, that is just so rare that you have a team that can do that, to be able to just go in and just crush another top 10 team. So I think it does just talk to how special that team was last year. But this team is plenty good. And if you look around the country, as I said before, there's just not any team that just puts the fear of God in you. There's a lot of good teams and a lot of teams on the caliber of Baylor. But I think Baylor's solidly in the mix and certainly has an opportunity to do some special things if they can stay injury-free the rest of the way and really build some chemistry these next couple of weeks.
By the way, I know you have put up all the analytics and all that stuff and your predictions. We have Jerry Palm coming up at 4 from CBS Sports on his bracketology. We'll have Lenardi and also Ken Palm and all them. We'll get them on over the next few days, but just wanted you to know Jerry Palm today coming up at 4.
I'll be listening.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Ashley Hodge, one of the 3 partners, Brian Etheridge, Cole Barber, Ashley Hodge, SicEm365.com, the umbrella of everything that we do. Mike Cole, the most impressive win last night that got overlooked by most, Rutgers versus Illinois. The Scarlet Knights are looking pretty good. They won 4 straight games against top 25 teams. I didn't know that. I think I may have seen that on my timeline. I don't know. So that's interesting.
Yeah, Big Ten's a good league.
Who's the best? Is Purdue and then Wisconsin?
Yeah.
I think it's about right based on most of what I've seen.
Michigan State, Ohio State are good. Rutgers is good.
Illinois
is good.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, this 3 o'clock hour continues.